Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hey, this is my very first live stream in my new studio with my new equipment and my new gear, new everything. So I want to make sure that before we really get started, that you can see and hear me okay. Do me a favor, jump in the chat section and let me know if you can see and hear me and if everything is coming through just great. Yeah, last year I did plenty of live streams for classes and for lectures and so forth, but they were in my downstairs studio, and I had everything set up just right for that, and it was working fine. But I decided to build a new studio. I'll send you a link. Actually, I think I already sent you a link to the new studio. But Meg sounds like it's working great. And Milagros, I need to find out how to pronounce that, so I'll be connecting with you. I want to make sure I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Great. Sounds like you can see and hear me, so that's fantastic. We'll give folks a moment or two to come on, kind of new, right? We've got a new semester, a new year, new topics, new technology. So we want to give folks a chance to come in. As I mentioned before, I built a new studio over the last few months and got new gear and so forth. And I've kind of discovered something. So back when I worked in the corporate world, I worked for Intel Corporation. They make the CPUs, the chips that go in computers and so forth. I worked for Intel Corporation for about 10 years. And whenever we would change technologies, change software, change enterprise systems, change HR systems, we always had to put a migration plan in place. The idea being, if you're going to migrate from one system to another, you need to figure out how you're going to do that correctly, because you can't stop the business, right? I mean, the analogy we used to say was, it's like changing a flat tire while driving down the road at 80 miles an hour. You can't stop, you got to keep going. And so we would have a migration plan to make sure that the system, the business was always running even while we were changing. Well, it was about last night and this morning that I realized I really should have had a migration plan in place, because it's been a little hectic getting things set up. So I'm glad things are working out all right. Okay, so with all that, let's go ahead and get started. I promised you today, here we go, I want to come over here, that what we are going to be talking about today is what is internal business communication? So for those of you who are attending the class, I teach a class on internal business communication. We just call it business communication. And hey, Elias, thank you. Fantastic. Business communication, what is it, right? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. And by the way, you notice, and you're going to see this a lot, you see some little graphics down here. Here we go. They're down this way. You know what? I ought to give myself a pointer. Let me give myself a highlighter. I'm going to give myself a highlighter. You notice these graphics down here? Whenever I get, say, an awesome comment or a new contributor coming on board, or a reference to a past lecture, or a real-time example, I'm going to go ahead and give you a little point. So for example, you guys have chimed in and told me that you can see and hear me great. That's fantastic. And let's come back to that. I'm going to go ahead and give you that. And then we've had 3 contributors that have chimed in so far. So we're going to just kind of add to that as we go through today's lecture. And there'll be a little something under the chair at the end of the lecture. You'll see what I mean. Okay? All right. Let's come back to this. What is internal business communication? Well, one of the ways I like to explain internal business communication is by first talking about what it is not. Okay? Let's talk about what it's not. And Sadie, since you chimed in, I'm going to give us another one. So let's talk about what it's not. So it is not external marketing. All right. A lot of people get confused about this because what you're going to find through the course of these lectures is that internal business communication uses the very same tools as external marketing. And we all know what external marketing is. This is things like advertising, promotion, events, you name it, right? So we look down here, we check out Gal Gadot. She's doing a Comic-Con event, and so coming in and doing all that and so forth. Let's see. Now, by the way, it sounds like there's some static with the microphone. Yes, I see that. I see that. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to see if I can... Give me a moment if you don't mind. Let's see if I can do this on the fly. And I will turn off. Give me a moment. You know, this is the growing pains of the new technology. So I appreciate you being patient as we try new things. So I'm going to turn this off. This one. I know, I was talking, but you couldn't hear me. Give me one moment. I'm going to add a, over here, I'm going to turn on the shore. Gosh, that's not coming through. Oh, hold on. So, okay, Meg, you said it sounds a lot. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do, folks, is I apologize. I will troubleshoot this. I'm going to troubleshoot this and make sure we don't run into these issues again. I'll get it right. New studio, right? New studio. And for some reason, I don't think that this microphone is working the way that I wanted it to. So I assume you can hear me now. Can you hear me? Yep. Okay. Okay. You can hear me now. All right. I apologize for the static. I will get that fixed. Okay. So let's keep coming back to this bad boy. Let's reduce you. Okay. So, hey, we want to come back to this. Okay. So Gal Gadot, she's doing a Comic-Con. I love going to Comic-Cons. Okay. So we've got her coming in and giving a spiel and so forth, adding some more points for us. Okay. And then we've got over here some advertising. Advertising, that's external marketing. Remember, this is external marketing. We have some promotion events and so forth. Radio ads, TV ads, billboards, flyers, Chotsky, this stuff, right? This is all external marketing, okay? Internal business communication is not external marketing, all right? Then what is it? Well, internal business communication, what we're talking about in this lecture series, is how people and teams in an organization collaborate to accomplish what needs to be done, okay? And already I noticed that my slides here, again, discard. I'm going to go ahead and move these bad boys down so that we can see. You know, they're teething with the new studio. I didn't think it would be this bad. That's all right, though. It's all good. Hey, remember what I said about getting an A in this class? Try new things, step out of your comfort zone, make mistakes, get messy, learn from it, and apply it. Bam! I'm earning an A. Okay, let's come back to this. Let's come back to this. We're going to make it work. Okay, internal business communication. How people and teams in an organization collaborate to accomplish what needs to be done. The messages and media an organization and its members use to communicate with one another so they can accomplish great things. Okay? So the way I like to put it, all right, is external marketing, the advertising and stuff, is about bringing business in. Internal communication, business communication, is about getting the work done behind the curtain. Okay? So we go off and we see this kick-ass movie, Wonder Woman, the first one. What was the deal with the second one? Oh my gosh, don't get me started. All right? We go off and see this incredible movie, but we don't see everything that happened behind the scenes. All right? This is behind the curtain. This is what's happening behind the scenes to create that great product. So we see directors and actors talking with one another. We see the grips and the boom operators and so forth getting work done. We see lighting doing their job, setting up their diffusion and their bounce. We see more direction going on. We see lots of communication going on behind the scenes of the movie, and I'm sitting there referring to all kinds of things like you can see it, right? It's that stuff right there. It's all the stuff going on behind the scenes to deliver a great product. So, internal business communication is all about the ways that we communicate as an organization to get the work done, all right? Now, here's the thing. Here are some examples of business communication that you're used to, right? Documented HR and company policies, reports, meetings, company announcements, project updates. Are you bored yet? Here's the problem with internal business communication. You experience it all the time. By the way, corporate training. Right now, you are going through business communication because this is a training session, and I am attempting to help give you the tools you need to be successful communicators off in the real world, right? This stuff, I'm going to just tell you guys, it's not too terribly interesting, right? Let's not pretend. Don't go, oh no, Dr. Schiffbauer, I find this hugely fascinating. No. Nobody does. And so a great disservice is done to internal business communication because when we think about it, all we think about are emails and phone calls. All right? So what do I want to do today? I want to show you how freaking exciting and amazing internal business communication is when it's done right and when it's done poorly. Okay? Now, to do that, I'm going to tell you 3 stories. That's right. From here on out, this lecture is about stories. I like stories. Okay? So, here's the first story. Oh, by the way, this is my way of saying that this is what business communication is. A bunch of old folks standing around talking, shaking hands, here's some information, so forth. No, this isn't what we want. All right? Let me show you what we want. All right. First, I'm going to tell you a couple of stories. A few stories. One of them, Tower of Babel. Okay, this is a painting painted, oh gosh, I have some notes somewhere saying who painted this and when. But the Tower of Babel is a Judeo-Christian origin myth of languages. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is, here's what happens. People have always, since the beginning of time, asked themselves questions. Where did this come from? Where did that come from? Where does this, that, and the other come from? And so we create these stories, and we call these origin myths, all right? So the Tower of Babel is the origin myth of why there are so many languages in this world. So here's how it goes. All right. I'll come back over here. So these dudes down here, and I know you can't really see them there very well, but you will in a future video. These dudes down here, they speak the perfect language. They speak the original language. It's God's language, all right? And so therefore, they have perfect communication, perfect understanding. There are no miscommunication. Their internal business communication is perfect, all right? Well, they start to get pretty full of themselves. And they say, you know what? We're so awesome. We feel like we are one with God. We are equal with God. And what better way to show that you're equal with God than to move into the neighborhood and just be with him? So they decide to build a tower that will reach all the way to heaven. And that way they can climb the tower, hang out with God, chat with him, and so on and so forth, trade recipes, you know the spiel. Well, they're building this tower, and because they have the perfect language, their project management and operation skills are second to none. They're perfect. And they're making really good progress. Well, God isn't too keen on this. He kind of likes the neighborhood the way it is. And so he decides, well, you know what? I need to do something about this. Now, God has all kinds of ways of showing his displeasure, right? He has all kinds of, he can do plagues, he can do locusts, he can do earthquakes, he can do, floods. He has a whole repertoire. But he does something interesting. He confounds their language, which is to say that when they wake up one morning, all of a sudden, everybody is speaking a different language. They're no longer speaking that perfect God's language, the original language. They're all speaking a different language. And as a result, none of them can understand each other. Well, if people can't understand each other, then work halts, the tower falls into disrepair, they all wander off because they can't get along, they can't cooperate, they can't collaborate, and lo and behold, they wander off to the four corners of the earth, and this is why we have so many languages all around the world. All right? So now, that's what we call an origin myth. But now watch this. This is the Mars Climate Orbiter, launched in September of 1999. September of 1999. You don't know much about the Mars Climate Orbiter because after about a 280-day journey from Earth to Mars, as it approached Mars and started to go into orbit, because it's the Mars Climate Orbiter, something went wrong. It lost orbit and burned up in the Martian atmosphere. So billions of dollars, years of work, flown out to Mars, and poof, burns up in the atmosphere. Well, what went wrong? This is what went wrong. Lockheed Martin, which performed the thruster calculations, they sent the figures to NASA in standard English units, feet, inches, things like that. However, the NASA engineers read and entered the figures into the rocket's guidance system in metric. Once again, we're reaching for the stars, we're reaching for heaven, and once again, a communication error causes the whole tower to crumble, or in this case, the orbiter to burn up. Okay? This is the modern day Tower of Babel. All right? Now, in this particular case, though, nobody was hurt, no problem or anything, but I want to do a deep dive now into a very elegant and I will also say unfortunate example of how internal communication can cause massive tragedies, okay? Poor internal communication. So let's go to another story, all right? Space Shuttle Columbia You see, here's the thing, guys. I'm old enough to where I remember where I was when this happened. I was actually in the MTC, the Missionary Training Center in Provo, Utah, when this happened. All right. So February 1st, 2013, guy named Wayne Hale. Wayne Hale was responsible for shuttle launches and recovery and so on and so forth. He was out on the landing site at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida with hundreds of others waiting for the return of the Space Shuttle Columbia, this bad boy right there. Unfortunately, Columbia never returned. Upon hitting the atmosphere, the shuttle broke apart, killing all 7 crew members. Okay, that's a picture of it breaking up. All right, so let's break this down. They had a problem. Well, here's what happened. Here's what happened, and I'll zoom up here so we can talk through it. During the launch, there's all kinds of foam on the outside of the fuel tanks because the temperatures and this, that, and the other. You need to be smarter than I am to explain why there's all this foam outside. And so during the launch, some of that foam broke off of the fuel tanks and hit the orbiter, hit the space shuttle on the wing. Now, normally, this sort of thing happens a lot. I mean, it was a pretty regular occurrence. And so they saw it, they didn't really worry about it, so on and so forth. But in this particular instance, it was actually really, really bad because the foam broke off the fuel tank, struck the orbiter, the space shuttle, on the wing, and punctured a super, super, super small hole in the wing. Problem is, when the shuttle came back and was going into re-entry, all kinds of superheated gases leaked into that hole, got it bigger, and started to heat up the aluminum of the wing, and it buckled, and boom, it all went off, okay? So, okay, that was the problem. But as Wayne Hale said here, all real problems are people problems. Okay, it's not, did the foam come off the tank? It's why did people let the foam come off the tank? Why did we think it was okay for the foam to come off the tank? Why were we totally copacetic with this? All right. Well, they actually analyzed it. It turns out that a lot of engineers, really, really, really smart engineers, turns out they were concerned about this, all right? An investigation found that there were, in fact, many engineers lower down in the organization who raised their concerns, but their concerns were not clearly understood by leadership, okay? Now, coming back to another quote from Wayne Hale, we've got an awful lot of smart people in the space program, but many of them are not very good communicators. If somebody brought a concern to you and it was not, just didn't sound logical, you were very dismissive and basically told them to get a life. Okay, I could analyze the crud out of this paragraph alone. All right, there's a lot of things going on that is causing internal communication to break down. You've got people lower in an organization who are having a difficult time speaking up in an organization. You have people up in an organization who have a difficult time allowing information to come up. You have information being communicated in ways that each tier does not fully understand. I mean, I wouldn't understand what an engineer was saying, right? And engineers aren't not trained to be communicators. They're trained to be uber engineers. Furthermore, check this out. Dismissive and told them to get a life. That shows some cultural issues at NASA. There were some, some animosity, some bullying, a lot of issues between the different tiers. Now, we're going to explain and talk about all of these things during the course of these lectures. We're going to look at culture, we're going to look at management, we're going to look at leadership, we're going to look at communication styles, we're going to look at all that, because that is what broke things down there. All right, so let's continue on. The Columbia disaster showed Wayne Hale that ultimately poor internal communication was a major contributor to this tragedy. And so he needed to fix it. To do this, he said they had to set aside arrogance and learn to become listeners. I really like that, because most of the time when we think about communicating, we think about this, the bleh, right? The stuff that we, expel from us, either through language, through voice, or through typing, or gesticulation like I'm doing right now, or facial expressions. I am expelling information. We don't often think about what it takes to receive it, to be good listeners, right? And furthermore, as he says here, they had to face the fact that organizationally they were very arrogant, and they kind of thought they knew everything and they didn't need to listen, okay? I have a feeling this sounds familiar to some of you in your own workplaces, right? Okay, so last quote from Wayne. Come on, baby, here we go. I really had to take a step back and start treating people with, okay, you've got this concern, I don't understand it. Back in the old days, I would have yelled at you. Remember that, what I was telling you, that they had cultural problems? That's a show of the cultural problems. Back in the old days, I would have yelled at you, but I don't say that. Now I really have to think about, how do I get you to give me more information? That's classic internal business communication, okay? That is where we're saying, okay, how are we going to get the information from one person to another and act upon that information? Now, when you watch some of the videos for this course, we're going to explore how really difficult it is to communicate. I mean, it's extraordinary how it even works at all, right? So more about that later on. I'm not going to bore you with that right away. But the point is, what Wayne Hale has found here is that communication is an active thing. It's not just about, it's all on you to give me the information. It's how do I work with you to get the information? It's a collaborative thing, okay? So ultimately, this really shows that internal communication can really mean the difference between success and failure, all right? It's not just about meetings. It's not just about emails. It's not just about memos and crap. This is real stuff. It's all about psychology. Now, you know how they say that to a hammer, every problem looks like a nail? Well, my PhD is in industrial organizational psychology, basically psychology around organizations and businesses. So to me, internal communication is all about psychology. It's all about how do we share information and act upon that information. Therefore, I'm going to submit to you, and you are going to hear me say this so many times throughout the course of these lectures. So I really want you to embrace this. The purpose of internal communication is to inform, influence, and affect the attitudes, feelings, and behaviors of those within the organization to meet business objectives. Okay? So, give you an example, right? And show you a few other things here. So, we are in an organization, you and I, We're in an organization. We're in a classroom. We are in a group. We are in a formal organization recognized by the state of Utah and all of the accreditation bodies as a course. Okay, so we're in an organization. So what do I want to do? Well, I want to use internal communication like what we're doing right now. I want to inform, influence, and affect your attitudes, feelings, and behaviors when it comes to internal communication. That's my goal. Okay, and so I try to bring good technology that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. Teething pain. Don't worry, we'll get it right. I use all kinds of technology. I use examples. I use different communication channels. I use all kinds of internal communication tools to try to influence your attitudes and behaviors toward internal communication. So I am seeking to influence you. But now here's the thing. You are also seeking to influence me. Here's the thing about communication. It goes both ways. And it's transparent. We're not talking about manipulation. We're not trying to hide or obfuscate anything. We are being completely forthright. What I want to do is I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. I want you to type in here, and how are you trying to influence me? Why do you want to influence me? What do I have? What do you want me to do for you? Trust me, there's plenty of things you want me to do for you. And you're going to communicate with me and do all kinds of things and so forth to try to get me to do what you want me to do. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. Put in the chat section your thoughts, and let's see what we come up with. Okay, perfect. Let's take a look at this. All right. So, by the way, I'm going to, let's see here. So we've got one, and by the way, Jeremy came in from a previous class and left some comments. So you're going to get points for his comments. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so just to kind of show you how this works, we got all kinds of awesome comments, and we got it all the way up to 10, which means good for you. Now, here's the way this works, guys. We got awesome comments all the way up to 10, okay? And incidentally, I have a sneaky feeling that we got contributors all the way up to 10 as well. So this is what I want you to do, and we're going to do this. Okay, I'm turning that one off. Okay. I want you to do, we're going to do this every single time. You're going to send me an email. You're going to send me an email that says 9:04. That's all you need to do, because that's what time it is. 9:04. It's 9:05 now. It was 9:04. Send me an email that just says 9:04. You're going to get some extra credit. All right? That's my way of thanking you for contributing and engaging in this kind of funky medium. Okay? So send me an email, says 9:04. That's all it needs to say. I know everything else. And you're going to get some points because you're being awesome and you're engaging in this process. So with that, what I'm going to do, let's come over here and let's read some of these. All right, so milagro. I got to figure out how to pronounce that. Try to get information from me to grow and, be a better communicator and so forth. Absolutely. And so hopefully you will ask me questions. You'll engage with me in these. Somewhere in there you see the comments. You're going to engage with me in the chat and so forth, and I'll be able to give you this information. Let's see. I really like what Meg says, okay, because this is like some genuine authenticity here. So virtual hug to Meg, right? Want to impress you so that it can be remembered in a positive way. Damn straight, right? And by the way, we are all human beings and we're all trying to do this. Do you think that I do all this just because I like it? I like it. I do like it. But I'm trying to impress you. I want to be remembered in a positive way. I want to be part of your inner circle, because if I can be part of your inner circle, then I can influence you more. You will perhaps give my teaching and my ideas a little bit more weight. You'll consider them more. You'll challenge them more. You'll feel free to question me and to disagree, because if I'm part of the inner circle and I've made my way inside, then you're willing to do that. So yeah, I'm with you, Meg. Josh, want to learn how to be an effective communicator? Absolutely. Braden, I like this because this goes back to my spiel on Monday, right? Trying to influence you to give me a good grade as well to learn, right? Yeah, he's got that as well. Yeah, totally. I am the holder of the grade, right? So you want that grade, and therefore you want to influence me such that when it comes time for me to give out A's, I'm just like A. You already know that's going to happen, but you want to hedge your bet, so you're going to try to influence me. Elias want to be confident in skills. I like that. Confident. Improve communication abilities. Okay, here's another thing I do, by the way. Lawrence says, same, want to learn how to be more of an effective communicator. So I'm going to come back over here. If you ever reference a past lecture, or if you reference somebody else's comment, we start filling up references to past lectures. Okay? Influence you to be a good educator and being a good student. I like it. Taylor, what I mean is that it's a lot easier to remain engaged when teacher is psyched about the subject. Isn't that true? And we're going to talk a lot about that. I mean, we are going to really explore that because, guys, I'm going to tell you something, and I really mean this. At some point, you're thinking right now, when do I feel competent? When do I feel like a grown-up? When do I feel sure of myself such that I don't always have to doubt myself? When am I going to stop looking around and say, who's the adult in the room? When is that adult going to be me? That feeling is going to be with you forever. Never goes away. Never. Okay? And so I really like this because, you want to be, somebody said earlier, Elias wants to be confident in your communication skills. And then Taylor says here, it's a lot easier to be engaged when this person is psyched. A lot of internal communication is selling the idea. That's what I'm trying to do right here. I came out and I acknowledged that on the surface, on the periphery, internal communication may be construed as boring, and you can be forgiven for that. But I then am trying to sell the idea that internal communication is everything. It is the most incredible power we have. Internal communication is what allows us to collaborate with other people. And when we collaborate with passionate people, there ain't nothing we can't do. So, yeah, and I want to teach you how to be psyched, and we're going to do that. When we talk about good presentations, we're going to talk about how to sell it by being psyched. I like it. Taylor, you must be old because you're using an old person's term, to be psyched. I use it all the time, so I know. Sadie, for me, I'd like to be influenced by the way you view business communication. I say that because I know it will allow me to be successful and another tool in your tool belt. I really, really like that analogy. Super like it. Okay, so here's the thing. Now we'll come back over here. Taylor, I'm only 31. Leave me alone. I love it. Okay, so here's the thing. We have just demonstrated that I am seeking to influence you, and you are seeking to influence me. But there's another angle. You are seeking to be influenced by me. You've already shown that, right? I want this, I want to learn this, I want this, that, and the other. You are actually paying really good money and spending a lot of valuable time seeking to be influenced by me, okay? That's a charge that I understand and appreciate, and so I try to use your money and time wisely. But I am also seeking to be influenced by you. Every time I teach this lecture, it's a different way, because your comments and your ideas really guide the lecture. Furthermore, you know, when you check out all this OBS stuff, do you think I know how to do this naturally? No, a lot of my past students have influenced me. Lon, I recommend you do this. Have you tried that? The videos that you end up watching for this course, for these lectures, are all about me growing in my skill set because students have influenced me and the way I teach this material. So that's kind of one of the cool things of internal communication. It's utterly transparent. We're not trying to hide anything. And we are seeking to influence one another, and we are seeking to be influenced by one another. Okay? So that is internal communication. Hopefully, I have demonstrated to you that it does not have to be boring emails and memos and meetings in which you fall asleep, that there is some real power to good, solid communication within an organization. And now you have a better understanding of what it means internally versus external. Okay? So this is what we're going to do. We finish up the same way every time. If you have any questions, any comments, I'm going to hang out here for a while. I'll be in the chat, right? In the meantime, you're totally set. You know the assignments you need to do. It's to go through the syllabus, do a quick little syllabus quiz, sign up for remind.com. Give me a quick video to introduce yourself so I can get to know you. You know my voice and face. I'm sorry about that. I want to get to know your voice and face. So go ahead and take care of those. Otherwise, I'll stick around in the comments in the chat section if you have anything. In the meantime, have a fantastic day. And we'll see you next week. All right? Here, I'm looking for my right button. I haven't gotten the Elgato pad yet. Elgato deck. We'll see you later.